So here's a video that I didn't think I would be making whatsoever. I'm going to be selling my Mavic 3, and I'm not going to sensationalize this video. This isn't clickbait or anything like that. This is just me talking about this as an average consumer, somebody who's truly disappointed with the performance in the Mavic 3. So I'm going to outline the reasons as to why I'm selling this, and hopefully you can understand, and maybe some of you can even relate. Let's get started. What's good, everybody? Ken here. You're watching OriginaldoBo. Today, I want to talk about why I'm going to be selling my Mavic 3. Now, this is not the Cine version. This is just the standard Mavic 3. I do have the RC Pro with this. That's how I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it RC Pro and Mavic 3. And I'm going to give you the main reasons as to why I'm selling this drone. Now, I was really excited when they first announced the Mavic 3. The preview for this, the teaser, looked absolutely stunning, and the footage that the influencers were able to capture with this drone just left me in awe. I was like, damn, this is it. This is what we've waited 3 years for. But then I got this drone in my hands, and I quickly started realizing that it feels more like an unfinished product than a finished product. So here's my top 3 reasons why I'm going to be selling the Mavic 3. Okay, so reason number 1 is something that I discussed in a previous video, and it's the GPS lock. The GPS on the Mavic 3 takes an incredibly long time for me to acquire enough satellites to be able to take off. For a stable takeoff, the Mavic 3 needs at least a minimum of 11 satellites. You'll notice that between 9 and 10 satellites, the satellite says in orange, telling you that it is not safe to take off. And it seems like every time I travel somewhere new to take off or use this drone, it takes even longer than the previous time that I took off. Now, just around the studio and around town, it locks satellites within about 2.5 minutes, which still is a long time because I'm sitting there for 2.5 minutes waiting to take off. Now, in real estate, it is not that big of a deal to have to sit there and wait for satellites to be acquired for me to take off, because I'm filming something that isn't necessarily moving. But if I'm filming something that is time constrained, where I have to get set up, shoot it before it's gone, well, then I'm sitting there waiting for a long time. And that's happened to me a couple of times already using this, where I've missed shots because the satellites weren't enough to take off. And if you take off, it limits how far you can travel. Not only that, you run the risk of having what they call a flyaway, where the GPS isn't quite locked, and, well, you could have problems. Or you can have an issue where it sets the home point to somewhere where is less than desirable, like what happened to me a few weeks ago, flying around a lake. I decided I was going to take off with 9 satellites, didn't have enough of satellites, flew out over the lake, and it set the home point at the middle of the lake. Now, I was aware of this situation, so I didn't hit return to home at any point. I flew it promptly back to me, and I reset the home point once we did have enough satellites engaged. So that's the reason number 1 why I'm selling this thing. Okay, so reason number 2, this one's something that is still persistent to this day, which is horizon tilt. I notice horizon tilt in a lot of my shots with the Mavic 3. Now, it's something that isn't quite as bad as I had on the first unit, but it is still something that is incredibly noticeable and something that I have to keep correcting for, which I find any sort of tilt in a drone today absolutely unacceptable. We shouldn't be dealing with horizon tilt whatsoever, and I'm not sure why this unit is so susceptible to it, but it's something that really bothers me, and maybe I'm just a little bit more anal than other people when it comes to that, just because I've dealt with it through all of my Evos, that it's one of the first things that I look for. Now, if you talk to Inspire 2 pilots, they'll tell you that the Mavic 3 has horizon tilt, and it was never corrected via firmware, which gives me little hope that DJI is going to be able to correct that. So that's my second reason, and not the biggest reason, as to why I'm selling the Mavic 3. Okay, so let's talk about the biggest reason why I'm going to be selling my Mavic 3 and not waiting for this particular problem to be fixed, and it's disconnections. So a couple of weeks ago, I was filming a condo in the city, and I was flying the Mavic 3. I had all my link authorizations, everything was gravy, and I'm flying downtown and the drone kept disconnecting at 500 feet, 1,000 feet from me. And I was clear of obstructions. I literally shouldn't have had any problems. I've flown the same route, the same condo with the Air 2S, never suffered any disconnections. So it kept disconnecting. So I landed and I swapped over to my standard controller thinking, well, maybe that's the problem. Nope. Standard controller, same situation, still was having disconnects in the city, which left a really bad taste in my mouth because it's the last place that you want to have a controller disconnect is when you're in an urban environment. So I decided I would take this out over the water, take it out, fly Hernando Beach. And as I was flying out there with the RC Pro, similar situation, I was having disconnects and I was about 200 feet in altitude. I try to keep it pretty low because periodically they do have planes that will fly out over the Gulf. And when they fly out over there, they're typically below 400 feet. So I was about 200 feet, clear, visible line of sight. So that way, if something did happen, I would be able to get it back. Now, this is where I found the peculiarness of this whole situation is when it did disconnect, I still had control. I was just losing video link. So I was still able to navigate the drone back to me, but I didn't have any video link. And it's just, I can't deal with that. Like, I need to know that this is going to work at least 90% of the time. It's got to work 90% of the time. So because of that, I'm out. That's another key reason why I'm going to be selling the Mavic 3. All right, so let's just wrap it up here because I don't want this to be an incredibly long video. Everybody has their own reasons why they keep or sell a product. You have to keep in mind that I am not a hobbyist. I'm not a hobbyist. I'm somebody who does this for a living. I use my drone every single day of the week to fly routes for clients. And if this is not able to perform as a professional, I need to move on to the next tool that can. And unfortunately, as of right now, that next tool happens to be an Evo Lite. That's just what seems to be working as of right now, but that story may change. But I'm not gonna let this sit on a shelf while I wait for DJI to fix it. I'm going to sell it, and if they rectify the bugs and the issues later on down the road, I may repurchase another one. But as of right now, this is still months later after release, not a completed product. And I'm not going to be a DJI apologist. I'm not going to make excuses for them because at this price point, there isn't an excuse for the issues that a lot of people are having. And if you think that it's just me, take a look around the forums, take a look around the groups. Others are having similar issues. And there isn't an excuse in the world that you can make for a billion-dollar drone company to produce a product such as this. Now, a lot has changed in the world since the first Mavics have been released and the Mavic 2 Pro as far as availability of chipsets. You can blame COVID on this botched release. You can blame a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, it's my hard-earned dollars that have paid for this. And I have the choice, just as many of you do, whether or not you want to keep or sell something. And I'm making the conscious decision that it's time to send this down the road before it gives me an issue that I can't come back from. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. If you got any value out of this, let me know in the comment section down below. If you're experiencing similar issues with this, not everybody's going to have these problems. And it's not that I hate DJI, I just don't really like the experience that I'm having right now, and I'm just sharing that with all of you. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Stay original.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money to